Good evening, everyone. My name is Sharon Stroy. I am the Director of Public Engagement in the School of Public Affairs and Administration. This evening's event is the professional development session for the SPAA Ambassador Program. The SPAA Ambassador Program is a multi-level leadership program where students who have been supporting the School of Public Affairs and Administration in marketing and recruiting, fundraising, and community building. Every month throughout the semester, we ask a profession to come in and share some insights about their career and just to provide some tools and tricks and a few words of inspiration to our current cohort of SPAA ambassadors. It is my absolute pleasure today to invite Mayor Colleen Mahr, the mayor of Fanwood, New Jersey, in recognition of Women's History Month. When we discussed who we would like to invite, we knew it was going to be a woman, but I also want to bring to attention that Mayor Mahr has done a lot in Fanwood around the issues of social justice, racial equity, inequality. We actually worked together on the joint TRHT committee for Scotch Plains and Fanwood, where we have both the mayors of Scotch Plains and Fanwood, the superintendent of the school district, faith-based leaders, council members, and community partners. Mayor Mahr and the mayor of Scotch Plains at the time actually formulated a resolution to form the TRHT Joint Committee. Last summer, after the killing of George Floyd, we hosted a listening tour, which was absolutely amazing. And we're now preparing a series of events to talk about truth, racial healing, and transformation. That is also part of the conversation in the city of Newark. It's a statewide conversation, but it is also part of a conversation at the national level, where Senator Cory Booker put forth a resolution to form a national commission on truth, racial healing, and transformation. I could not think of anybody else to be a part of our Women's History Month program than Colleen Mahr. Mayor, it is all yours.
Okay, so hi girls. Happy Friday. Happy Friday, right? And it's beautiful out, so I want to thank you for taking the time to Zoom in to meet me. And I want to thank Sharon for really thinking of me when she was putting the series together. So I am an elected official. I have been the mayor of my town now for 17 years. So I am in my 5th term. Each term is 4 years. I am also the mother of 3 boys that are 14, 16, and just turned 18. So my oldest son was just a year old when I got sworn in, and I tell the story how when I got sworn in, I didn't understand why my dress didn't fit well, because I was 12 weeks pregnant with Daniel, who's now 16. So my boys don't know anything other than their mother has been a mayor, that their mother has served their community, and that I go to a lot of meetings. But in addition, I also work full-time because it is really only very large municipalities in the state of New Jersey that one becomes a full-time mayor with a salary that's commensurate to that. So when you talk about Elizabeth and Trenton, maybe Atlantic City, Newark, Jersey City, Patterson, those are full-time mayors that go to work every day. Mine is considered a part-time, but I don't look at that at all because I'm on 24/7. And I ultimately get $1 a year. So I do it because I actually believe I can make a difference in my community. And there's not enough women by far that are in the political arena, let alone the elected official titles. And I'll put a little color to that. We have 565 municipalities in the state of New Jersey. So kind of like let that sit in for a minute. That's because that's a lot, right? 565 distinct towns, each with a mayor, governing body. You know, some would say we have too many, which is why our property taxes are too high, sort of home rule. But out of 565 municipalities, there is only 80 women that are directly elected like myself. So let that sink in, right? So 80 women out of 565 are directly elected as mayors in the state of New Jersey. One would think that our odds are a little bit better when you get to the governing bodies, which are the council that serves with the mayor, because there's more of them, right? You know, in my community, my former government, I have 6 council. If you go to, I think it's South Orange or one of the oranges, they have, or no, Linden has the largest governing body, which is about like 11 or 12. It's like something like crazy like that. Women are roughly only 30% in as elected, and I'm talking on the local level. So part of the reason why I have stayed so long and get $1 a year, besides being able to make a difference or have thinking that I have something to give, is that I think that women need to see women in powers of position, or positions of power rather, and to do that comes at sometimes at sacrifices. You know, I am a single mother. I have 3 boys, and I'm here on a Friday night, right, and in my office because this is what's important. Right? It's important for women to see other women doing things. And it's important to always be there to lend a hand. And I am a firm believer that you need to look back, not necessarily forward. You know, my role is I look back and see who's behind me and try to bring them up with me and give them opportunities that they might not find. So that's kind of, I guess I've been doing it for a long time, but where I am sitting here today is not my mayor's office. It's where I actually like make a living. So I am, my profession is that I am the administrator for the county of Somerset. So each county has someone that runs the day-to-day business of county government. In Essex County, they have Joe DiFrancesco, who is a elected county executive. I am like him, where I run the day-to-day operations, but out for Somerset County, but I'm not necessarily elected. I am appointed. And I am the first woman to sort of hold this seat here in Somerset County, and that's not lost on me either, that this position has been held by men for years and years and years. So I'm a mother, I'm an elected official. I work in government basically my entire career because I believe that government has a place in our lives. I believe that, and if we harness government, you know, correctly, we can change people's lives for the better, and that we can do transformative things. And that's not to say that there are bad apples and that there are people who do stupid things when it comes to being elected officials or being in powers of position in government. But on the whole, I do it because I know that what I really do is constituent services. At the end of it all, if I break it down to its simplest form, my job has always been in government to help the residents or the people for where I serve. And when they usually get to me, whether as the mayor or here now as the county administrator, it's because they are angry, frustrated, tired. They try to figure out a problem on their own. They've gotten stonewalled. They need help, whether it's paying a utility bill, whether it's dealing with a neighborhood issue, whether it's dealing with police in a negative way. By the time they get to someone like me, they've tried to figure it out on their own. And so my job has always been, I'm very cognizant of, is to solve problems and to do it in a way that's respectful of people, regardless of where they come from, what they look like. and to help them. So I love what I do. I would tell you, you have to have that passion, whatever you do in life, right? It's got to be something that, gets your heart beating a little faster, gets you standing up a little straighter, makes you want to, as I say, put your lipstick on and your big girl shoes on and your high heels and go out there and do the best because you are excited about it. And I have found a very gratifying career in public service. I started out in the city of Jersey City many moons ago, working for, at that time, Jerry McCann, who was the mayor. And I saw, going back to the power of government, how I could help people by picking up a phone, saying that I was Colleen from the mayor's office, and I needed to help, Mrs. Smith, whose power was going to be turned off because she can't afford her bills, but yet her son, needs electricity on because he's got a health issue. And Mrs. Smith had tried for weeks on weeks and couldn't do it. And then I realized, I could do it. I could make the right calls. I knew hierarchy of power, and I knew how to get what needed to be done. And that's what transformed me, because I never started out thinking I would ever be an elected official. I never started out thinking I would be working in the public sector for 25 years. And I never thought that I would be sitting here out in Somerset County running the day-to-day operations of over 2,000 employees and close to 4,000 people that live here. So it's really funny how life works. But, I kind of fell into kind of happenstance, being a public servant.
Wow. So before I open it up for questions to the ambassadors, I do have a couple of questions, Colleen. COVID-19. You're the mayor of Fanwood, and you have residents, constituents, people to take care of. What is the first thing that you think about that you need to do, not just for the residents, but for yourself, for your family? You're employed, you're a single mom, you are the mayor, and COVID-19 happens. What is the first thing that you do?
I can tell you exactly what the first thing is that I knew that I needed to be a source of credible information, beginning and end. That I knew that people were going to look to me for messaging, for guidance, for whatever. And I knew that I needed to make sure whatever came out of my mouth at the time at my kitchen table, right, trying to figure out what the hell was going on and how afraid, like when we look back, right, a year ago, the fear, just the cold fear of COVID was so palpable, right? Why was there a run on toilet paper and paper towels and things that were like crazy, right? Because the people were just godforsaken scared to death. So I knew that they needed to hear from me on a regular basis. And so from March to July, I communicated with my community every single day. And every day I needed to make sure whatever came out of my mouth was credible, correct. And that was literally the first thing that I thought of.
Wow. Now, my second question goes to, and I'm familiar with Somerset County, actually done some TRHT work.
I know you did.
In Somerset County. And Somerset County has a long history. How did you end up in this position?
So I'm assuming all the ambassadors, right? You're all part of public administration. Is that sort of like the thread that binds?
Yep.
So I think you'll all get this, right? Networking, never burning a bridge, ever, even when you want to torch it, right? Never burning a bridge. Keeping yourself, right? Because this is a culmination of years, right? Like I'm here because I didn't start out thinking I'd be here, but
Right.
it led me here, that I knew that as a woman I could put my hat in the ring. I didn't know if I was going to get it, but I knew that my career kind of led me to believe I could do this. And partly what I will say is that this was a pretty open position. Like there was no one that was sort of pre-picked to be here. And so, but I realized that I was the only woman that had applied for the job out of probably a dozen men. And I found this out after. And what I found out was that out of the dozen, there was probably 4 internal candidates, you know, that were department heads that had been here. But there was a sense from what was freeholders, but now are commissioners, that they wanted somebody from the outside. So that kind of took like those men off the board. And then what was left was, say, a bunch of men and myself. And when I realized, like after I got the job and I kind of understood who had kind of put their hat in the ring, I realized how underqualified a lot of them were. So let that sit there, right? Because as women in the public world, right, whether you become an elected official or whether you decide to get involved, I will tell you girls, as I am sitting here, and listen to me, do not hesitate to put yourself out there for a job. Women tend to hold back, and we think, oh, I don't know if I could do that. I don't know if I have enough experience. Maybe I'm not that qualified. Maybe I need like some special license to do that. And it shocked me that the men that had been on the board to take this job had so much less experience than I'd had. And I've seen this through my entire career in politics, that men don't hesitate to put themselves out there to run for office for this type of job. They don't care. But we kill ourselves internally with whether or not we should do it. I don't know, maybe I shouldn't, maybe if I don't get it, or like, I'm like, you know, so after all these years of sort of living that and being in my own head, it was very funny to understand that there was no other woman that looked at this wide open job and put in for it, number one, and that my competition, in the end, I kind of blew them away.
And you know, it's so interesting. And so this would be my last comment. It's so interesting because this is the inaugural cohort of the School of Public Affairs Administration Ambassador Program. All of them are women. That was not our intention. That definitely was not, we were intentional of making sure we had diverse of thought, gender, ethnicity programs, because we have students that are undergrad, students that are in our online master's program, students that are in, well, the on-campus program that happens to be remote right now. We have students who are in our executive MPA program. So there was intentionality, but this year happened to be a group of all women. And when I say to you, rock stars, I just have to be honest that they have they've put together things that we would probably need to just pay somebody to do, but their ingenuity, their just their ideals and their due diligence and the follow-up, they have raised the bar so high. I don't know what the next cohort is going to look like. And so it's just been amazing.
So I will just tell you that is why a part of me has stayed a mayor for as long as I have. And there have been times when every 4 years, when that comes up for me to kind of figure out if I should run again, I recognize that women bring so much to the table. And we check our egos at the door, and we get the job done. And we bring different perspectives, and we bring different ways about problem solving or conflict resolution that is not threatening, and diffuses a lot of issues where men like just, a lot of the issues in the world, I swear to God, could be really solvable, but you get this standoffish, and I see it in the halls of Trenton in New Jersey. I see it in positions of power where there are all men. Women bring a so much, but there's barriers to our entry, right? There's real barriers that exist, and breaking down those barriers are not easy. And from a political point, I would say that is why we don't see enough women doing it, because women tend to try it, and if they don't succeed, they leave, and they don't stay, and they don't try again. And so that's why our bench isn't deep. And I recognize that. I told you about the number of women that were directly elected mayors. I said 80. When I started 17 years ago, we were like 102. So think about that, right? So almost 17, 18 years ago, there were more women. And in all this chatter about women and helping women and blah, 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 right? There's less women running local governments today.
Wow.
And that's the reality, right? There's a lot of chit chat, right? Like people talk a good game, about elevating women. But let's be honest. If it was easier and really there, you would see more of us. And it's not for the thought that we can't do it. It's just that we can't get really through the door.
Wow. So I'm going to open it up for questions. Effie, go.
Hi. So thank you so much for coming here today. I hope you can hear me. Okay. I always have to make sure I'm not on mute because I'm in many meetings and I'm like, I forget I'm on mute. But my name is Ifoma. You can call me Evie. Right now, I'm currently a manager, leadership coach at a nonprofit called Teach for America.
Oh, sure.
And while I was listening to you talk, the one question that came up in my head that I often think about a lot is, as a woman, and it's sad that I even still have to ask this question, but how do we manage just like the responsibilities from work and wanting to, maybe if we have a goal of being a mother or, just like other goals in our life, how do we manage that? Because there's like many times when I feel like I don't really know how to manage that yet. And I choose work a lot of the time over, mental health and my well-being and just like a lot of things. And it really sucks. And then you were talking about a lot of the barriers of why maybe some women don't apply to these high-level jobs because, I think there's a lot of systems and barriers in place that still do not support women till this day to manage all of the responsibilities that come with being just a woman in American society.
So you bring up a really valid point, right? Because women are caregivers, their mothers, their sisters, their daughters, right? Our plates are full, we juggle. Listen, many is the time over the course of my career that I pull into my driveway, I burst into tears, like literally burst into tears because I am so physically exhausted before I have to get out of the car, go into my house and deal with that, right? Because that's like a whole nother thing, right? Other than like being here, which is almost like, a little world unto itself. Listen, I will tell you it's not easy. I will tell you that I am single because I ended up recognizing that I had married a man who really felt threatened and didn't really truly support what I was doing. He thought he did, right? But when you become the one that is like out there, right, and you can do that, you know, so that was all right, right? Like I was like, okay, because in one sense, once he was gone, my life was a little calmer, right? My house was calmer, right? Like I didn't have that all that stuff that goes on when you're not in a healthy relationship. Like, so that was like out there. But I'm a single mother, right? And so I have a mother, right, that helps me, and I have my sister that helps me, and but it's not easy. And if I had a nickel for every time another woman would say, you know, I don't understand how you do this. Like, I don't literally understand how you can get up and you can go to work and you can be the mayor and then you can drive to work and, you know, you have 3 boys. And I would say it's been a sacrifice, to be honest. It's been at a sacrifice of things that I realized when I look back, right, of putting maybe others first in order to do the job that I felt like I needed to do, of being a public servant, right? Or of putting my community first, or running for office where I had to go out and knock on doors every weekend, right? You know, from like 1 o'clock to 4 o'clock, because, you know, that's what you do, right? When you run for office, you got to get out there, and, you know, you can't phone it in, you know, when you want to lead. So it's hard, Effie. It's not easy, and the emotions that you have are real, and I feel them too. I think that what I've learned to do is kind of cry, get it out, and move on, and just do it, right? And it always kind of works out, right? I think it does work out. And try to find some good support in other women, you know, that work and that can support you, and you can meet up and commiserate. But to have the life that we all think we want can come at sacrifice.
Thank you.
Rosalind, and then Sakina.
Okay. Hi, Colleen or Miss Mahr.
Yeah, call me Colleen.
Today. Thank you for your taking time today to speak to us and sharing your wisdom and knowledge. I wanted to know, how do you maintain, like, what are some practices that you maintain to keep the best version of yourself going, even in the midst of all the distractions in the world?
My hair, I make sure I always make time to go to the hairdresser.
Mm-hmm.
Like, no joke, right? Like my hair, doing my nails, right? Getting a pedicure, right? Mm-hmm. Like making sure that I kind of physically look good, right? Mm-hmm. Because I think it's important, right? When you're out there and you want to be in the public eye, right or wrong, people are going to look at you. Right. And as a woman, they're gonna look at you. So I always, like, first, because then it makes me feel good, right? It makes me feel good to make sure that I kind of make sure I cut my hair, I get my hair colored, I do my nails, do my eyebrows, you know, kind of like make sure I indulge in a pair of shoes or a good pocketbook, right? I've learned that perfume makes me happy, right? Like if I buy my right perfume and I put it on every morning like clockwork before I go out the door, and I do one of these, or I keep it in my car, that makes me happy, and it puts me in a good frame of mind. So when I get out of the car, you know, I joke like it's about like looking good, right? And taking time to like actually do what makes you feel good about yourself, right? I don't really get a chance to exercise, so I can't say like going to the gym, because I don't go to the gym. I don't. It sounds good, but that's not me. I try to use my weekends, right, to do some fun things, you know, and try to like hit the reset button a little. It's really funny. I never watch television. Like because I don't have a lot of time, but I've always been like a news junkie. So like in my house, I'll always have on the news, I'll kind of,
Yeah.
and I'm an elected Democrat, you know, so I'll watch like CNN and MSNBC, but I'll go to Fox and I'll figure it out because it's always good to hear what like the other side like is saying. But that kind of like makes me like happy to kind of watch the news because
Mhm.
I find what makes me successful is being able to have conversations with people and to be first a good listener, right? So I've learned like like to shut my mouth sometimes and use my ears and let people
Mhm.
talk. But I found being able to talk about a variety of things, right, is what kind of breaks ice sometimes and brings down barriers, is to talk about so many other things before maybe you get to the gist of what they want to talk about, right?
Mhm.
So I found like watching the news is not for everybody, but that kind of puts me in a good place. And in the pandemic, I've learned to actually like binge watch stuff that I've never like done. Like I don't know if anyone watched like Schitt's Creek. That
Oh yeah.
well, I got to
It's
tell you, I
yeah,
watched
that's
that for
interesting.
like
Yeah.
2 weeks straight during the pandemic, and that was like awesome because I never had the time to just go and do that. And so, but yeah, so it's all about like I think that's my
Yeah.
self-care, right? Like finding what, you know, little
Yeah.
things that like pair of shoes, new, you know,
Mhm.
lipstick, you know.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you. It just sometimes I get so caught up in work and other things, I forget. So actually, you just reminded me. I'm taking next Friday off from work to get a massage because my back has been aching for months, and
Yes.
I don't know. I just kept ignoring it. I don't know why. I just got caught up in everything else, and I'm like, wait, I can't do everything else if I don't take care of me. So I'm
You
definitely
can't walk
looking forward
around
to
in
that.
pain, and you
Yeah.
can't walk around in pain and try to think that you can like, you know, do things when you can't get
Yeah,
out of a chair.
that's true. Thank you.
Sakina.
Hi, good evening. My name is Sakina. The question I had is, how did you reconcile all that there is to know, being in public office and like deciding to go for it? I think about myself and some of the other people that I speak with, that have some interest in public office and just feel overwhelmed just thinking about all that you need to know, all the background information, all the things that you need to keep up with as they happen. Like how did you reconcile that and
Sure.
decide, oh, I can still do this?
So I never had thought to be an elected official. Didn't even enter my head. But what happened was when I worked in Jersey City and worked for the mayor there, by extension of working in the mayor's office, you got involved with politics. It was just a natural extension. So I got involved with campaigns, and I had no previous experience. So I would tell you, get involved locally because
Mm-hmm.
you don't put that pressure on to know everything. So when I got involved, I started out like doing phone banking. And I was like, well, what the hell is phone banking? Right. And they gave me a phone. Nobody had cell phones at the time. So they gave me a phone, right? And we'd go to a place and they'd give you a script and they'd give you a list. It was kind of like a no-brainer. And you would spend, you know, after work from like 5 to 8, and you would make calls into voters and say, hi, I'm Colleen. I'm calling, you know, Jeremy Cann's running for mayor, and can we count on your support? All right, you get a little nervous doing it, but then it becomes like easy.
Mm-hmm.
And then they asked me to go and do literature jobs. And I was like, well, what's a literature job? I'm like, I don't know what that is. And that's taking their kind of political propaganda and with a list and going around and dropping it at designated households that they think should get their literature. All right, I can do that, right? So you would do it. And along the way, you start to organically understand what the issues are.
Mm-hmm.
You understand why the person that you're helping is running for office. You start to listen to the person who is the elected or the person out front, because you're the person in the back where nobody sees, right? And you start to listen about what's important in your neighborhood, or what is the opponent saying about trash pickup, or what's going on with taxes, and what is even taxes, what makes up our taxes. And so I started to understand the interconnection between politics and government. And there are some that will tell you that the two should not meet. And I would say, well, those are people who choose to be career government officials that have a job. Some would call them a bureaucrat. Some would say that they just work for government for 20, 30 years and retire. I was supporting a candidate, so I felt I was invested in that candidate, and by extension learned why they were running and the issues. Now, when it came time for me to run for office, I knew that I didn't know anything. I mean, I didn't know all the ins and outs of my community at the time in Fanwood, because I only had moved in there like a year before. But I understood the idea of the campaign. I understood what you had to do, and I kind of paid attention to what people were talking about. The biggest question I get as a mayor, as a woman mayor, from other women is, do you have like some sort of special like degree or background? I was like an English major in a liberal arts college, you know, like, no, like I'm not an attorney. I'm not like anything special. What I have is I have a voice, which I've learned to use. I make sure that I use my voice only after I understand like the issues, because again, it's all about credibility, right? And that I knew that I could work hard and that I was like a sponge. So I would say get involved locally, or be a good listener and watcher, and you'd be surprised how quickly you pick up things and how you can make connections, especially with your education. Like you can make connections to what's happening on the ground, to maybe what you're hearing in the news, on television, or how that fits into the national conversation, right? And then you just kind of weave your own narrative, and then you be very surprised how quickly you have an opinion. And then you open your mouth, and then you're rooted in, you know, knowledge. And then all of a sudden you find that you're able to hold your own in a conversation. And then by God, you're deciding that you want to run for office.
Well, thank you. It's very refreshing, I think, to hear you say that you didn't know.
Yeah,
like,
not a clue.
To have a whole rundown.
Not a clue. I mean it. Not a clue.
Awesome.
Not a clue. But I think that you guys are in the right spot, right? Because you choose to be in this MPA program, right? And I got my MPA at Seton Hall many moons ago, and it was like a natural extension of what I was doing at the time, which was working in Jersey City, and understanding that I kind of like this public thing, right? I like, you know, but it's so much more today, right? Because there's such a big conversation going on, right? So it's the finances of government, right? And the affordability, it's the social justice issues, right? And the power that, you know, the public has in shaping those conversations, right? It's equity that happen, right? And it's opportunities, and that goes back to the power of government, right? If you harness it, you can really do great things.
Absolutely. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Samantha.
Hi, Mayor Mahr. We've known each other for, you know,
We
several
have.
years, but I have really appreciated you coming today, because you are exactly where I want to be in 17 years. I'm hoping to go for administrator and being elected, hopefully someday. My question really, I think, echoes a little bit of what Evie said, where I can't believe we even have to have this conversation. But politics in New Jersey is still kind of an old boys club.
Old white boys club.
Old white straight boys club.
It's
yes.
like
Exactly. But there is, especially being a woman and a young woman with children, there is a seriousness of which men are taken that I don't feel like women are taken. Like you said, you found yourself more qualified than all the men you were going up against for this position, and yet you're kind of being viewed equally. And I feel that even as a young woman just starting out in this industry, where I feel like sometimes I am more qualified than many of the men who I'm going up against, and yet some of the men will be taken with more seriousness, whether it be for sexist reasons, where it's, you know, you're just pretty here, or if it's more, you know, you have children, you don't have time to commit the 24/7 that we need from you. So how did you overcome that, having such young children, when you started out, of saying, no, I can do this job. I'm a mother. That naturally makes me a fabulous project manager. So how do you kind of overcome that all like stereotype that happens right away?
So I'll share with you when I started out, right, and I was the mayor 17 years ago, right? So I was younger, right? And I didn't look like hardly any of the mayors that people were used to. And I would walk into meetings, whether they be in Trenton or with the Mayor's Association, and they literally thought that I was like an aide or like somebody's like assistant, because all the mayors looked like my father. They were white, older men. And I didn't realize that until I found myself in that position. And so I have struggled over the course of my career to be taken serious to advance my political career. So when you think about it, I am a mayor in a very small town in Union County. And I have always had higher aspirations to run for, whether it's the Assembly, into the Senate, you know, to do other things. I felt like I paid my dues. You know, I am a good Democrat. I spent probably the first 10 years of my political career helping other women get elected. I'm a pretty good fundraiser, and for women, politics is all about having your own money and not having to really ask, you know, sort of other powerful men to help subsidize your campaign, because then you owe them. And in this game, you don't want to owe many people. You want to kind of make your own way and walk to your own beat. And I have found that I was dismissed outright for years. For years. They would poke fun at me that I was just this woman in this little baby town, you know, because I am my town is under 10,000 in population, you know, and she's just like the, you know, like she's just like, who does she think she is, you know, running for office and like winning. And I did it without any of the institutional support. Like for me, it was not, I did not like go, and I did it a very untraditional way. But I didn't realize I was doing it in an untraditional way at the time, until I wanted to advance, and I was lied to, I was shut out, I was treated terribly because I didn't fit the mold, and they didn't think they could trust me, right? It didn't matter that I was a re-elected Democrat many times over, that I had built the party, that I was out helping women. In New Jersey politics, the very few control the power, the real power. And that's our reality. And so I believe there's a reason why there aren't enough women in here, because they make it so incredibly hard. And as Democrats, you know, you have to really look at yourself in the mirror for those that have the power. And I think a lot of them talk a good game and don't necessarily show it in action. And I think the Democrats talk about having a tent, you know, that we're so different than Republicans. But at the end of the day, I have watched good women get run over for the sake of putting in a man. And so that's sort of like the not so nice truth, right? But if we're going to have an honest conversation about, politics and the public and being a woman in New Jersey and wanting to make a difference, that is why I would tell you, you get involved and you find women that think like you, that can be a mentor, right? That can help you kind of clear the path a little. That you surround yourself by people that think like you, because they're out there, and there's a lot of them out there, and that are willing to put you out there, right? We're a very organizational Democratic Party, right? There's the political bosses, right? There's a lot of power that's coalesced here in New Jersey. So on the local level, I personally believe it's the local level where you have your best chance at breaking in. Like you use your local territory and your connections to get in to the game, as they say, right? And to show them, what you can do, which is being that supporter of a candidate, right? Which is bringing together people that maybe other people aren't paying attention to, right? And it does come, Samantha, at a cost, right? Because all this takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of time to do, and you're going to school and you're working and you have kids, right? And so somewhere something's got to give. And at times that's where we sacrifice ourselves and we don't even realize it until, again, we're sitting in the car, the keys are off, and then we burst into tears and we can't get out of the car. And then we wonder, what? But, Sam, you know what to do. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I look at you and I know, like, you understood the path of working, in the governor's office, and you understood, how to branch out, right? And you're now in a county that you're calling home, right? And you're putting yourself out there. And that's the key, right? It's putting yourself out there. It's saying, I'll volunteer for that, right? Or I'll show up and I'll help for that. And having support, right? And that's the hard part. No magic pill here, girls.
If there's not any hands, can I ask one more? Just a
Sure.
small one. Being that your kids are on the other end of this is really a question as a mother and not an elected official. I struggle a lot with the fact that because I volunteer in so many other things, and I do believe in giving service to the public, I do miss a lot of things.
Yep. I missed a lot.
Peer practice, and you miss, activities and stuff like that. Being that your kids are on the other side of this, would you do it again?
Yeah, I would. Because this is kind of what I know, especially when they're young, they don't really, like, it's okay, right? You know what I mean? Like when they're really babies, it's okay. Like right now, when mine are like in junior high and in high school, I got to be a little bit more present. It's okay, right? Especially when they're, I found, like, I look back, I don't think I would change it. Yes, did I feel guilty? Did people make me feel guilty? Yes. You know what I mean? Did I feel guilty, like if I wasn't there for something? But I got to tell you, I have 3 pretty well-grounded young men that when I'm not looking, tell other people that they're proud of me, right? Because they'll never tell me. But I find that now, like at 14, 15, 16, 17, I'm glad that I can be a little bit more present, because this is where they can get themselves in a little bit more trouble, to be perfectly honest with you.
Thank you.
Wow. It is so interesting. So this past week, last week, I don't know, it's been such a long week. We had the Ron Rice lecture series where Senator Teresa Ruiz spoke about her journey.
Yeah, she's got small babies.
Yes,
I think one
baby, small baby. And like her, they must have came to her probably 4 times to talk about running, and she was just like, I don't want to do this. This is hard. I'm not going to do this. She's like, and she was comfortable right where she was, but it was something that her dad said, who was an immigrant from Puerto Rico, and also, losing him, she recognized that it was about the service. And if you could have heard her the same way we're listening to Colleen, the passion about the service. She talked about some of the things that were said to her being on the Senate floor, and people actually calling her out of her name. And you're sitting there thinking, like, how do you not see that this is what is good for the people?
Because not everybody does it for the good of the people. Too many, and they tend to be men, do it for self-advancement. They do it for a political job. They do it for professional advancement. They do it to wheel and deal. Women come at it from such a different paradigm. I mean, such a different paradigm. We're not in it to get rich, right? We're not in it to use it to leverage something else. We're in it to make a difference, right? And because we believe we have what it takes, or we have an idea. And that's why it's hard when you get pushed to the side, right? Or and that's why I always say to women, just don't go away, right? Like if you fall down or get pushed out, stand up and get back. I mean, I have been run over multiple times in my career, multiple times. I have found myself devastated, because I just didn't understand why I was being treated this way. Just like literally like at a loss of why it wasn't my turn, or why. And then at some point you stop asking why, and then you just continue to do. And it's hard though. It's not easy. I will tell you that. And, and that's why I'm so glad that each of you are here tonight on a Friday, and that you each, put your hand up and leaned in to be this ambassador. The world is bright for you, right? The public administration is such a noble profession. It's a career, it's a calling. And this is your network. This is your base, whether you realize it or not. Sharon, myself, Teresa, we've all met you now, and wherever you go and whatever you may need, all you have to do is reach out, and that's what women do, right? And that's how we get where we're going, and we strengthen our ranks.
Are there any, this was absolutely amazing. I knew I wasn't making a mistake, as well as some referrals from some other folks in the room. I knew that this was not a mistake. Colleen, Mahr, you're absolutely amazing. This was great. Before we close out, any last final questions? Sakina, I see your hand up.
Oh no, that wasn't a hand up. That was a clapping, because this was really
and I mean it when I say it, that if you guys ever need an idea, or if you're looking for some mentoring, or if you want to understand what county government looks at, Sharon, I'm here. Very easy to kind of create, some mentoring or some places to kind of get an insight of what county government is. Very easy for me to, now that I'm here and I don't have to ask anybody.
Colleen, Mahr, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Have a lovely Easter and